Alrighty, let's get back onto this Ju-188. And what I've been trying to do is build a piece that goes into the sidewall on the opposite from the pilot. And what I did was I found some pictures of what that area looked like near the nose, and I drew a little picture of it, and I sort of put dials and various things in there to make sure that it would look okay, what the size was. And this is, close to the real thing, but it's probably not 100% accurate. But it's got some dials and switches and things I'm putting together. And so I decided to go ahead and build this thing. So this has got, you can see it's all plastic. And you can see that it's got, some relief on it because they're different pieces, thicknesses of plastic. That piece that's out near the bottom, that's a seat, a fold-out seat, and there's a area behind it that's going to have some switches. And some of these areas I want to put little, little dials and stuff on, just to give a hint that there's something instrumentation there. So I decided I'm going to try to do that is basically overlay these areas like this one here, maybe this one, with a couple of with paper essentially that I've cut out little holes into. So at least this is the plan. So I've taken my little Japanese hole punch here, and this is the smallest little tip I have. It's a 1 millimeter, and I'm going to take a piece of paper. And I'm just going to try and, cut some holes in it and see if it would actually look half decent. I don't know if it will. So I'm going to, let's see. Can you see this? I'm trying to make it so you can actually see it. Problem is my camera's in the way. You basically push this thing down and push it, and it spins around, and it makes a nice little hole. So I'm going to have to do it off camera because I can't get a good view of what I'm doing. I'm going to basically put a row of these, or at least a couple, sort of next to each other and see if they would look good. I don't know if they will, or if they're going to be too far apart or just plain not the right size. I might have to go to actually cutting them out like with regular old, just with say tiny drills. But for example, this now, if I cut this out in a little square here, has 2 holes in it. And these 2 holes could kind of approximate some dials. And if I was able to then take this, assuming my knife blade would cut through said paper, I was able to take that little piece and stick it onto this in some way, shape, or form. Put it, say, here. That would give me something that looks like a couple of holes, little dials, that you could then paint later. In fact, what you could do if you were smart is paint this part, say, black, and then put this over top, painting it gray or something, and then you would actually have something that looks like, it's really inlaid. I was going to do that and see what happens. That doesn't look too bad, because I can probably put that in. And again, they're too big, so maybe I'll put these on here, but then I will try to put some along this stretch just using a drill. See what happens. But this is a piece of paper, so what I'm going to do is glue that on with some of my tacky glue that I usually use for my paper models. And I think when this happens, I will end up with something that looks like dials. Now, I've seen this done on 1/72 scale models, plastic models before, where people actually, cut out areas of thin plastic, and they make things look really good, little holes in the plastic, and the model, they actually do paint the background black, and then they hit the piece with like a pin and scratch the black paint off in the dial, and you leave little white areas that look just like instruments. It look like the markings on the instruments, and I've seen it work really well before. And so if you were skilled in that realm, that's certainly something you could do. I'm gonna just kind of do that, see what happens. I am going to go and get some drills and see if we can make it work a little bit better with drills, so I will be right back. Okay, I brought my eensy teensy weensy drills. So maybe this will work actually better in terms of it'll be smaller. So I am still going to use, we'll start with paper. If paper doesn't work, we'll use really thin, plastic. But let me try first, just to see if I can, if this will look good or not. It might not look good in paper because it's paper, and you might need to use plastic to make it look half decent, because in this case, for instance, the paper, it just starts to fuzz, it looks like. It starts to fuzz up bad. So we can't use paper for this great idea. So we're going to try using very thin plastic. Plastic like this, but super, super thin, which I have over here somewhere. And we're gonna try to poke holes in it and make it look like little holes. This obviously will damage everything. So this is very small. Let's go ahead and see if this works better. Let's just drill a hole. Can I get a clean hole? See, the hole doesn't look any cleaner than what I had before, than the paper, which is kind of sad. Well, it looks a little cleaner. If I sort of go in here and sort of go around like that, there I get some pretty clean looking holes. So maybe that's the way to do it. So let's put a couple of those on a little piece down here that I see that would look cool if it had a little bit of a cut off the edges so that it looks more like not just a chunk of plastic. So it looks like it's sort of supposed to be. In fact, I'll do this. Some of this is like making, in my opinion, it's sort of like doing stuff on Star Trek. It's making things that fill up the hole and give you something to look at. They might not necessarily be actually accurate, but they're going to look good, especially when you look at them from the standpoint of a model of some kind. So let's put this. How does it look if I set it right there? Still pretty big. Let's cut that off. Cut that off. How does that look? Just as a test here. How does that look? That looks okay, except, well, actually it's gonna be okay. Let's do that one. Let's cut a little bit more off of the bottom here to give it more of a little tighter look to it. But I still want to get off the tip here. There we go. Maybe this tip a little bit more. I mean, you should be looking at a picture of the actual interior, but I don't know where that is. I can never find those things. They're beautiful pictures of things that people have used. I mean, somebody has them because they've made all kinds of stuff for this airplane in 1/48 scale. So it exists. I just don't know where it is. So I put a little glue on there, and I'm going to tap this little guy. I'm going to magically go on here. Make sure it looks pretty straight, and let it dry. Okay. Just making sure you can't see this. I'm just making sure it looks straight. There we go. Okay, so there's that. Now I'm going to try to tackle this long thing here. There should be about 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 4 or 5 dials on there. So this one doesn't exist anymore. Is a little bit too big. So let's try and get one that's a little smaller. Yep, I just destroyed it. See, you drop these on the floor, that's what happens. Smooth move, X-Lax. Let's try a smaller one. Let's try something pretty teeny. Let's try this one. This one's sort of, it's very small, but maybe, let's see what it looks like when we try to drill a hole with it. Can I get it pretty small? Because once you drill the hole, they kind of get bigger. So can I put these next to each other in a line so that they look like little dials? Okay, so let's take this. I suppose you could do some other tricks, like you could, if you were talented, you probably could take like a hot poker almost, a little piece of almost like the tip of a compass or something like that, and you can heat it up a little bit in a Bic lighter or something, and or a flame of some kind, and then maybe that in and of itself would kind of make might make the hole clean. I don't know. This is just an attempt here to try to make these look okay. Let me see, are they kind of in line? Yeah, they're not bad. Now, can I cut this so that it looks pretty good? We'll cut that so that's vertical. We'll cut this across the top like that. And we'll cut this across here like this. Now, how does that look? Pretty crummy. Got to do some adjustments here. It doesn't look that bad. But the idea is, can I make it look okay? Now remember, in this scale, at least to me, I operate under the principle of at this size, things are going to look okay, because your eye will probably, sort of bring in will probably sort of fill in the blanks. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. If you're doing this in 1/16 scale or 1/32 scale or something, you might need to. But we're doing this in weenie scale, so I don't think you have to be as precise. People who are really good at this in 1/72 scale, the one true scale, might take umbrage with that, and I understand. This is my favorite scale to work in too for plastic models, by the way. I love 1/72 scale. It's just the right size, and you can get a lot of bombers and stuff. I like them smaller, and I like the whole idea of things being small and delicate, and when you do get detail into them, they look even more impressive, because you can't believe that the people got that much detail into something so small. So I think in a lot of ways, it's sort of a fun way to do it. So this has to be even. And sadly, it's going to be very hard to get that even, I'm thinking. We'll try. That doesn't do bad. Okay, now, the other thing to remember with these is that, you got these holes in there. When you put the liquid glue into them, they will also look better. In other words, the liquid glue will break up some of the, and kind of melt the plastic. So if you've got plastic that's sticking in here that looks funny, it might go away. It might go away when you actually put in your liquid glue, because some of the fuzz and some of the extra pieces of plastic will probably go, just melt essentially. So I'm trying to make sure it's, maybe I can do this a little bit. This is all seat of the pants engineering, by the way. Just trying this, and if it doesn't work, we'll chalk it up to a learning video, and we'll go from there. So looks lousy, but let's see if we can't make it look a little better. Put a little bit more oomph in there, and then we will, I do like the size of them. I think the size is better. I'm gonna leave the other ones on that I did because they look okay, but the size on this I think is better in terms of how big these little dials are supposed to be for this size. So I don't think the size is too bad, because you look at that, these look like little circles, and I'm hoping that they will, basically all that extra junk will disappear. I hope. So let's make sure it's cleaned out as best we can. That looks pretty good. So now let's go ahead and test fit this over. That's gonna look all right. So we'll put some glue here. Well, some glue, and put this on top. And make sure it's straight. Not bad. Again, what we're trying to do is give it the hint of something very cool is happening. It doesn't have to be perfect. Once we paint everything, things will get better. And the bigger pieces are nicer. The smaller you get the little holes, the harder it is to make things work. That's just the way it goes. And so, yeah, that isn't the best. But we're going to leave it as such and just, again, chalk that up to experience. We're not trying to make a model that's going to win a national contest. We are just having to have fun. So what I want to do is behind here, this is a fold down seat, so I'll ultimately put things on there, seat belts. A couple more dials and things up in this area, but back here, there's actually, behind here, it's like an opening in the sidewall, but there's a couple of switches that stick up here, a couple of levers that stick up here. I'm going to try to put those in from the back side. Now, I don't know how that's going to work, because that is a tall order. What I'm going to do is attempt to cut a little tiny, well, look at this. There's a piece there I cut off already. That tiny little bit. I wonder if I can cut that in half, and I can put one on one part and one on the other. Let's go see. Can I put this behind so that this would look cool? Let's put a little bit of glue there. Let's take a licking the tip of this X-Acto blade with my hung. Based on what I've seen in pictures, there's two of these things back here. And of course, it won't stay where it's supposed to. The one looks okay, but this one's stupid. And then of course, pull the other one out. Okay, this is what you run into when you're trying to build models. Trying to be so careful, and then you get nailed along the way here. Let's try it one more time. Can we get that in there? Will it look good? One's got to be there. And then we need another piece right next to it. Here's the piece we're going to use, whether it wants to or not. We're going to put a little more glue, a smidgen more glue right there. Earthquake. I got this ring light, and it's interesting. It works, but for my lighting, but it also wreaks havoc with some things. I want to have an angle. And have them sort of so that they're not perfectly vertical. They're not supposed to be perfectly vertical. And the idea is when you look around here, you have those two little guys right like that. And it's not working. There we go. There, I got them separated a little bit. And now they look like, I hope they look like two little extra pieces there, okay? So that's not bad. So why don't we now, I mean, you still need a couple other places here. This needs a couple dials. And in the pilot's area, the captain's side, he needs a couple dials here. That's like an instrument cluster, and he needs a couple dials on here, as well as a couple of switches. Let's try one more attempt, one more different attempt at trying to make little tiny holes. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I am going to try to light this little piece of brass on fire. No, I'm just trying to heat it up. Heating it up so it gets nice and warm. Ooh, that looks cool. Oh, my finger's on fire. Now, ouch. Can I put this through like this? And does it leave a hole? No, not a chance. I thought that this would help me. Like when you used to build the old monogram models, you used to take and poke a hole where you had to make the landing gear move or the wheels move. You take a hot blade and swoosh the plastic. That didn't work at all. What a bummer. What a great idea, thwarted by facts. Oh well. What I'm going to do is try to make a couple more holes in here off camera, and then we'll stick them on where the pilot is and finish this off. You have an idea what I'm trying to do. But in general, you know, this doesn't look too bad. Look at that. And it adds a lot of interest to what you're going to put back there. And it's not resin. It's not, you know, it's your own stuff you made yourself, which makes it even cooler. So I'm going to finish this guy up, put a couple of things on the captain's side there, and then we're going to put this piece into the side of the airplane, and maybe it'll look really good. So we'll come back in a couple minutes. Alrighty, so I think we're pretty close. I'm going to try to show you some stuff I did. I hope that we can all see all this. I added some little doodads things here on this middle console. These little things are switches. You can see them. How I made those I made a whole bank of them on the other side. There's a whole bank of switches, I think, on the real airplane over in this area. Don't know if this is exactly accurate, but there's a bunch of electrical switches I'm assuming that they have to throw for various things. And how I made those was I took some plastic and I made a bunch of parallel lines, cuts, or grooves with this little Tamiya scribing tool. And then I cut those into strips, thin strips with an X-Acto blade. And they approximate then this little, what would amount to a bunch of switches, I hope, if you can use your imagination a little bit. At least that's the plan. I put a couple of those, as I said, along there. I put a couple of, I think you can see them, levers here, where I get a throttle maybe, I'm not sure exactly what they are. I put a bunch of three little dials up here that you can barely see, I hope. Maybe you can see them, I'm not so sure. And then this side is where I spent the bulk of my time, which is finishing off and adding the piece that we were working on in the previous little component here. So I've added all of these pieces. It looks very three-dimensional, which is nice. I put a couple things down there so it looks like there's not just a hole there where you're going to go down into the gunner's position down at the belly of the airplane. But I hope this is getting this. It looks pretty. There's a lot of stuff going on that makes it look much better than it was. Again, not 100% accurate, but not bad either. I also went underneath here and I added some things to make this look like there's something underneath. So when you look up there through the window on the bottom, you're going to see that there's components in there. I'm not sure what to do with this area right in here. Not quite sure. I'm either going to start painting this now and leave it alone, or I'll figure something else out. But that is generally the interior, I think, done. I'm going to need to make a gunner's seat for the turret. We'll have to vacuum form the top and see where that actually goes. Hopefully it won't run into any of this stuff I put in. We'll see what happens. Anyway, there it is. It's much better than it was. Rudder pedals, all the rest. When you consider what it started like, I'm pretty pleased with it. So I hope somebody gained a little bit of insight into how to do this. Again, it's kind of more fun to scratch build your stuff, even if it's not 100% accurate, in my opinion. It makes you an actual model builder. So not that the other stuff isn't hard to do. I have never put in a resin cockpit or wheel well, and it looks painful to do. It looks very difficult to make things match and look good, and then you got to paint them and all the rest. So it's not like it's child's play. But I had more fun doing it this way. And when this is all dry brushed and painted and washed and all the rest, I think this will look quite convincing for our old Ju-188, excuse me. Especially considering we're going to be having it look. You're going to be looking through the a canopy that hopefully is nice and clear. So there we go. Onward.